Starting on time, man.
Welcome to Straight Conversation. And yes, we started on time this time. I'm your host, Jesse, and having a straight conversation with Mark Collier, who decided to come on and check us out. I had to beat him to come on because I think he was nervous. No, I'm just kidding. Hey, how's it going, Mark? What's it looking like on your end?
I'm doing well, man, down here in Atlanta. I had to mess with you. I had to represent my Bears, man, on your show.
Man, I gave up on the Bears. I had to give up. I had to quit the Bears. I was like, like I said, in this day and age of get it now, why am I waiting on a Super Bowl from a team that's not going to deliver a Super Bowl? It's like Netflix. Let's just get it. And I already got one Super Bowl with New England. I became a fan of New England 2 years before they 1 year before they won the Super Bowl. So I'm already one Super Bowl in.
There you go.
So speaking of the Bears, are you from Chicago?
I am, man. Grew up, man. South Side, born and raised, man. 83rd and Kenwood. Went to 2 years. I don't know how many Chicago folks will listen. First 2 years at Mount Carmel High School. Graduated from Kenwood Academy. And
you graduated from Kenwood?
I went to Kenwood, man. The Wood.
That's right around the corner. I went to Dunbar.
Oh, yeah, Dunbar, man. Yeah.
I graduated with Dunbar. We used to play Kenwood. I was on the chess team. We used to play Kenwood in chess. First person I ever seen crying chess was from Kenwood. He was like the best dude in the city or something. And my junior year, I was beating him down. And actually, it was my 3/4 of the end of the match, and he just slammed all the pieces off the table and walked out. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? I was like, is that the match over with or what? And his coach was like, I'm sorry. He eventually came back in. He was like, I apologize. I never lost. I was like, he shook my hand, and I was like, man, they serious at chess in Kenwood.
Oh, man, Kenwood was one of the leading public schools in Chicago. I mean, there was Whitney.
Still is.
Yeah, Whitney, Kenwood, Lang Tech. I mean, those
was the top three. And I actually could have went to Kenwood, but I went to Dunbar, and then coach just grabbed I went to their orientation, and then I just fell in love with Dunbar. But speaking of Kenwood, man, your boy R. Kelly, man, he I think he's gone forever. What you think?
Look, man, when that stuff first broke and he still had some money in his pocket, I was telling my wife, I said, he should leave right now to some country where there's no extradition. Because I said, you're black, right? So they were coming after him, man.
And the problem, what's interesting is that he's been doing this since I was a kid. This is nothing new to the people who from Chicago, from that neighborhood, from the community. We were seeing him do this when we were kids. Yeah. We're not kids, but the people that grew up with this is not this was the worst kept secret. And the problem is he had the money, so he kept doing it. And he get away with it, and he kept doing it. So, I mean, I don't really know. You think? So, just a quick question on that note. So, is it okay to still listen to his music?
Look, man, you know what? The libertarian in me, that's an individual decision that each person's going to have to make for themselves. Personally, I'm still listening to his music. I'm still rocking with R, man.
He made great music. I won't confirm or deny it. Though actually, I haven't listened to his music in so long. But if it come on if somebody turn it on, or if it's on somewhere I'm at, I'm not gonna be all pissed. I personally don't have it on or anything like that. But I mean, he made great music. I mean, there's a lot of hits that he made, and that's funny. So you went from Chicago to Atlanta. What's the difference between Chicago and Atlanta? How did you get to Atlanta?
Well, there was an intermediate step first. When I first got married, moved to New Orleans. My wife got a job with the Department of Energy in New Orleans, so we moved there. Lived in New Orleans.
That's deep south.
Yeah, deep south. Now that was a culture shock, man, coming from Chicago to New Orleans.
I was a couple hours. Actually, it was a couple hours from New Orleans. When I went 20, I went down there. I ended up getting married in Longview, Texas, which was East Texas, Bible Belt. So yeah, so you were in New Orleans, and how did that?
I enjoyed New Orleans. I miss the food. It's a very unique city. I don't know if you've been in New Orleans and spent much time there. it's a very unique city. A lot of deep culture, much like Chicago. Great restaurants, but it was a very slow town, man. I mean, I never felt like that was where I was gonna stay. It was just too small a town for me coming from Chicago. So how we got to Atlanta, my wife and I both attended grad school at Tulane. She got her master's in public health, master of science in public health, and I got my MBA. And she got a job offer first at the CDC. So that is how we ended up in Atlanta and have been here for 21 years, man.
How do you like Atlanta? They like all that, like the Black Mecca.
I enjoy Atlanta, man. It's a little bigger city, which I like coming from Chicago. It's a great city to raise kids in. It's got a lot of diverse culture. The weather's good. I enjoy it here, man. I have no regrets moving here.
I've been there a couple times. The last time I went there, a couple years ago, I left. So I take a yearly trip to Jamaica, and then what happened is I was like, I'm coming back. I'm gonna fly into Atlanta, then to Chicago. So I'm gonna stay in Atlanta overnight, and then so we can kind of hang out. And we didn't really get out because 7 days in Jamaica I was burnt out. So we fell asleep and we just didn't get out until. So we actually did the layover for nothing. But walking through the airport, I didn't think I'd see an airport as big as O'Hare in my life, and that airport, and everybody there was black. Like everybody, I mean, it was really like a good shot. Atlanta. It's a powerful city.
Yeah, Atlanta is it is a culture shock. It is a black mecca. That airport's massive. You've never been through the airport. It's designed for commuters, though. It's designed for connecting flights. It's not really designed for the locals, because I've never seen an airport before Atlanta where the arrivals and departures are on the same level. Typically, split. I'm like, what engineer did this, man?
Yeah, because in O'Hare, man, I always have to go all the way to the other side of the airport. Yeah. But usually I'm flying. Admittedly, when I fly, I am flying international. So I don't really fly too much, but I am flying international. Hey, wait, don't you owe me a steak or something? Because Biden beat Trump. They would make a.
I told you want to collect on the state, you got to come down here to Atlanta, all right? I'll be happy to take you out, but I'm not flying to Wisconsin to feed you.
I just thought of that, like, man, I made a bet. So limited. So
come to Atlanta, the steak is yours, brother.
All right, and it better be a good steakhouse. I know you only eat at the good steakhouses.
Look, man, I'm not taking the Sizzler, man. Okay.
So I was considering taking you to Sizzler when you got up here, so that would have been bad, huh? You said a good steakhouse, so I had Sizzler. All right, next time I know. But you usually shouldn't bet me because I'm rarely wrong, if ever.
Well, you got me on that one, brother. You got me on that one, no doubt.
So Atlanta, how is Atlanta different from other places you've been?
It is.
How is it different from New Orleans, and how is it different from Chicago?
All right. I would say it's right in the middle. New Orleans is a small city. Chicago is obviously a big city. Atlanta is kind of a happy medium. So I'd say that's the best way to describe Atlanta.
That's funny. Like, it's funny, like, coming from Chicago, every city is small. Because most people, like, Atlanta is big. And you're like, but coming from Chicago, it's like, yeah, that's a small city. And people like even in Wisconsin, people be like, oh my God, you live in Madison? Wow, that's a huge city. And I'm like, Madison? like, dude, it's like 300,000 people. Like, that's huge. But, coming from a city of like 4 million, everything, and that's just like without connecting the suburbs, everything's small. Yeah. So have you, obviously you haven't switched sport teams because I see you rocking your Bears hat. No. So you haven't picked up the Falcons or the Hawks?
Nope, man. I'm a Bears fan from the womb to the tomb, man.
That's how they usually keep them, huh? So the Bears fan, hey, I made my kids Bears fans, and they wouldn't trade with me. They wouldn't. Okay. I was like, dude, I kind of I told them like, hey, if you're on a ship, right, and you're in the middle of the ocean, Your ship is sinking.
Yep.
Okay, and a party boat come past, and they're like, come on, we're gonna jump on, we'll take you to shore, you could come on ride with us, and you're like, nah, I gotta stay on my boat. I gotta stay on my boat. And your boat's sinking and sinking. That's how it is with the Bears. It's like nobody want to jump ship, but it's like, I gotta stay with my team. And it's like year after year after year, we go through the same thing.
It's our ownership, man. I mean, any of you guys, any folks on the line or calling in who are from Chicago know it's the Bears' ownership. That's I think where the problem lies. So.
Okay, Timothy said he got away from the loop. He should be stationary about 6:45. We'll probably still be going at it. Thanks, Tim. But so it's funny because so you're like a man of many hats, right? You don't just do one thing. You have other things going on too, right? Like I've seen one of your shows. Like you actually do like a real show in a studio, and you help businesses or you talk about business. What do you do with that?
All right. You're right. I do wear a couple of different roles, but my primary role is I'm a faculty business consultant at the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. So I work exclusively with small businesses here in the Georgia area, and we help them grow and scale, man. And we work with them in kind of what we call the 5 core business functional areas: strategic planning, marketing, operational efficiency, human resources, and financial reporting. So those are what we call kind of the 5 core business functional areas. And I assist businesses, man. It is rewarding work, Jesse, to see businesses grow, help them grow their revenue, hire more employees, because, man, I'll tell you, man, that's going to be one of the key elements that's going to pull us up, man, is entrepreneurship for minorities and Black people, man. It's got to come through entrepreneurship.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I really won't. No, I'm just kidding. But and the brothers we got to step up our entrepreneurship, because a lot of the entrepreneurial businesses is Black women. Black women are getting in as far as businesses, starting their own businesses, go to college, and especially with the entrepreneurship. I think I read like 1 out of every 3 businesses that started small businesses like a black lady. I mean, so us brothers got to keep up with the Joneses or keep up with the sisters and keep it up.
Right.
How do you so if somebody's thinking about starting a business, right? Is that something they can come to you about and run some ideas by you? And how do you do you encourage all businesses, or do you be like, that might not work for you, bro?
Yeah. Look, some of the most important work I do is talking people out of going into business. I mean, look, if you don't have a good business model, if you're not well capitalized, I mean, the statistics around here, Jesse, somewhere 60, 70% of small businesses fail within 5 years. So my position's a simple one. We just don't need more small businesses. We need small businesses that are sustainable, that will remain in business. And that's where the importance of sound technical assistance to small businesses will give them a better chance to succeed, man.
And actually having people like you to bounce stuff off of is pretty helpful, because you think of like stocks and bonds and stuff like that. You could go on Robinhood and buy your own stocks. You could go places like that. But it's nothing like having a money manager who actually sit there and study the markets all day, every day for a living. Having somebody that actually, it's like if you're a lawyer, even if you go to court, most lawyers are going to get a lawyer. So I would think it's the same way with businesses, like having people to counsel and help you out and things like that is very important.
Yeah, smart business owners do that. They understand the value of having trusted advisors on their team, man. That they don't want to make all the decisions themselves. They want that kind of that knowledge base, that core of subject matter experts that they can reach out to. And that's kind of the role that we fill. And the best part about it, man, is we do this for our Georgia businesses at no direct cost. I mean, our business model is a simple one. When we help them grow their revenue, grow their employees, guess what? They pay more taxes, right?
Right.
That's kind of a very simple business model that we work off of.
Right, and like I say, I seen your show, and I mean, I think people should check it out. Usually when people see you like a clip or something, you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna turn it on. But I watched it straight through. I think it was like a 15-minute clip or something like that. I don't know, but it was entertaining the whole way through. Do you work with a lot of black businesses?
Absolutely. Well, this is Atlanta, brother, so you know that. And that show is separate from what I do at University of Georgia. That show is owned by a private media company here in Atlanta, and they've just given me the opportunity to kind of showcase my clients. I bring a lot of my clients onto the show and kind of just showcase their success stories. I also bring other subject matter experts from different fields. I mean, I've interviewed patent attorneys. I've interviewed Biden's SBA administrator, Isabella Guzman.
Oh, wow.
So I had her on my show as well. So I've got a variety of folks. And I'll tell you what, I really enjoy the show. I wasn't naturally a media person, but I've grown to like it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty cool. Like I say, it was. I mean, I listened to it and I learned stuff right there. I mean, it was just like one show, and I'm sure you talk about different subjects and all that all the time.
Sure.
If you want to call in and talk to me at work, you can dial us at 608-957-8724, 608-957-8724. People was yelling at me. They say I didn't mention the number. No, I figure since I posted it everywhere, that but I guess they want to hear it. So that's 608-957-8724. You can also video stream it as if you click on the link. But
that's right. We'll see some faces out there, right?
Oh yeah. So, but if you do video covers, you gotta have Chrome. I think you gotta be connected with Chrome, and then Chrome, so that's that. So one thing. So you're more like me when it comes to social media, right? You talk about a lot of serious subjects, but you have fun with it.
I do, and
I can see you laughing. I can just hear you or see you laughing behind the keyboard because it's funny, but like people get raised out of it, but it's entertainment. Social media is entertainment. Wouldn't you think?
I can't believe some people take social media so seriously. I mean, I've had friends and family members unfriend me because of social media. I'm like, dude, this is Facebook. Are you serious?
Hey, what's funny about that that you say that is that and D'Angelo said bear down. We off the bear. No, I'm just kidding. but what's funny is you say that is that generally with my social media interaction, I pretty much open social media. I type on my page a couple things, and it's entertainment to me. But I type on my page, and 99% of the time, I am never going to anybody else's page unless I know like they can handle it. But I'm never going to anybody else's page. We got a call coming in, but I'm gonna finish this thought. Well, I'll finish the thought afterwards. I don't know why. It looks like cash, but for whatever reason, it's not coming in yet. All right, I'm just gonna hang up. I'm not sure why.
Phone number again, Justin. What's the phone number to call in again?
I gotta close out, but I'm trying to. But the phone number is I'll text you the.
Okay.
Let me. All right, the phone number. You got a pen?
Hang on, I'll get it right. No. Okay, go ahead.
The phone number is 608-957-8724.
957-8724.
608-957-8724. I also tagged you on your page, on your Facebook page with the telephone number and stuff like that. But yeah, that's the number for anybody that's listening. Are you with us, Cash?
Hello?
Are you with us, Cash? All right, he didn't come through. But so the one thing. All right. This is a straight conversation with Jesse and Mark. Mark and Jesse, who are we talking to?
I am grateful that you answered the phone.
Hey, we be trying to. Hey, we have never turned away a call, man.
Who is it?
I think your phone was messed up.
You know my phone on that shit. I got an intelligent phone.
You got a flip phone, man.
I got an intelligent phone. That's your terminology.
Is that Cash Crenshaw?
I spoke with you last week from the same phone. Hey, good evening, Mark.
Good evening, Cash. How are you, brother? The man, the myth, the legend.
I know that. Yourself?
What's that?
How you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. Doing well, man. Good to hear your voice, Cash. I appreciate your greetings every morning, man. It starts everyone's day off on the right foot, man.
Thank you, Mark. I'm glad Jesse arranged with you to come to his show before you get Facebook jail bound.
Why you want to bring that up, man?
Mark, stay in Facebook jail.
Hey, Mark, you and Burdell, y'all amazes me. And James Compton, y'all amazes me. How y'all stay in jail so much. I'm glad it's Facebook jail and not jail in reality.
Oh yeah, thank goodness for that, man.
Yeah. So Mark, I've seen one of your talk shows before, and I shared with you. My brother-in-law used to have a talk show like yours. It was called Advocate in Chicago by the name of Vincent Gilder.
Okay.
And he had different people in the business world that he would talk to and question, and they would answer, and they would give insight of what they was about.
Yes, sir.
I'm very pleased that you have the talk show, the small business talk show.
Yes, sir.
Where you interview and host a lot of African Americans.
Yep.
And I heard you say earlier that it's all about don't be in today and you're out of business in 5 months.
Yeah, man.
So I appreciate you, and I'm glad they appreciate your honesty. If they're qualified, or if they're ready for the business, or if they're not ready for the business, and they accept your direction. So I tune in and listen to you guys while you discuss your avenue and your aspect of the small business, black small business.
Yes,
because
sir.
it's important that we have entrepreneurship on our homes. Like Jesse said, the black lady is just running ahead of us as black men.
That's right. Well, they are, man. They are just.
All right, thanks, Cash.
Now, Cash makes a great point, Jesse. He echoes your point, man. Black women, they're running rings around the brothers these days, man. I see it. I see it on my job, man. Many more black women are starting businesses than black men.
Yeah, and it's interesting because every time you hear a lot of people talk about like black women, they always, or black people in general, they always thinking about the negative black people and not how many, are doing positive things and good things. And even when it comes to young people, really, like the people who yell the loudest is the ones we hear. And there's so many people, young, old, black, white, like no matter what, are just doing good things. But again, we only hear about, the people who yell the loudest. So speaking of yell the loudest, Kaz made an interesting point, but we were talking about Facebook. The thing is that 90% of the time when somebody unfriend me, unless they tell me they unfriended me, I have no clue they even unfriended me. Like, I'll see them and they're like, that's why I unfriended you. And I'm like, when? They're like, last year. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, Facebook needs to add a feature where someone unfriends you, you get a notification so you can send them a thank you message. No, I'm just joking.
No, but it's funny because people take it so serious, and it's I mean, if it wasn't for like being silly and being funny and talking about like, what would be the point of social media? I mean, literally, I'm not going to put anything drama. I'm not going to be fighting or, watching videos or fight videos and stuff like that. I mean, people be like, man, talk about something entertaining. I'm like, the people I do talk to, this does entertain us. It's a joke. Nobody's pretending to change the system. We just like to talk about it.
We're just looking around, man. I mean, I'm admittedly an antagonist. I will push buttons.
I admit you're an antagonist too.
It's never with any malicious intent, man. I mean,
no, it's funny.
I never personally attack folks. I'll attack the heck out of your position and I'll shoot off. But I'm not going to start calling folks names. And when people do that to me, and it's with regularity, I just kind of disengage, man. You know, I'm not going to go down that road.
Yeah, and you know, like I say, and the funny thing about it is, like, some of us have these conversations every day. We post it, we have these conversations, and then there's always some random person who never had a conversation. It's like, oh my God, why is this going? Like, you guys are pissed. Like, no, dude, we do this every day. Like, this is something we do every day. Nobody's mad. Only the outside people that come on get all pissy and be like, I can't believe you said that. And it's like, my page has been like this since I started Facebook. This is the only reason I got on Facebook is to create a pulpit to hear myself tell the world how they should live. So would you consider yourself a troll or just an antagonist?
Why do we have to engage labels, huh, man? No.
You said antagonist, but I mean, giving you credit. Usually, when I'm talking to conservatives, they like easy marks, and you probably feel that way about liberals, you know. Like, but it's like, but I gotta admit, you're one of the most insightful conservatives that I've had a conversation with, and it's like, you know, like, you still got a lot of crazy stuff, but at least you can back it up. You know, at least you come with like half facts or fact. No, I'm just kidding. But at least when I have it, like when you jump on a post, I know you gotta like bring your hard hat, because if you don't, you're gonna point out flaws in this stance and flaws in that stance. So you're pretty good at that. So do you do a lot of research, or do you watch a lot of news? Like, you obviously don't watch just Fox News.
Actually, to be honest with you, I watch news from both sides of the aisle, but where I really spend a lot of time reading each week is The Economist. The Economist is a publication that deals with global businessmen, a lot of global matters. I enjoy that publication very much. I mean, much like you, I have certain interests. I love small business. That's my passion. So I can talk about that all day. Political stuff, I mean, it's banter to me. It's just fun.
Entertainment is like talking sports.
Exactly. I mean, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in the political arena. I'm not. But
you're pretty good. But you know what you're talking about. You get in the conversation that you know what you're talking about.
Well, yeah. I'm not going to say anything unless I tell folks this all the time. I'm not going to say anything unless I can support it with data, facts, or evidence. So.
Right, because a lot of people jump in conversations and they have no clue what they're talking about, and that's on both sides, you know. And like generally, if you're gonna have these, Brandon said he's at bowling. He'll watch later, but generally, if you're gonna have these conversations, like I watch CNN, I watch Fox, I watch MSNBC. Any news that comes on, I watch. The problem is, it's like, you know, when you watch those types of things, that it's going to usually be, you know, it's going to be slanted to whatever side they own. And it's going to be slanted, and whichever side of the aisle you enjoy, you tend to focus more. I personally like watching media outside of the U.S. There's a couple, I can't even think of the name of it, but I always watch this lady, the Grevita. I can't even think of it. But she is a lady out of India. And she's bad, boy. And she talks about all these world issues and stuff in the U.S., stuff in China, stuff in Russia. It's always like you get better perspectives, you know, when you're listening to stuff that's not based in the U.S. Because we are so polarized and political in the U.S. that it doesn't even matter. You know, like a mountain can be falling, and depending on who said it is whether people are going to believe it or not. You know, and it's like. And what you gotta, like, we talk about like fake news, and I'm like, news is not fake. Like, real news is either facts or wrong. Yep. Now, what's fake, like what we get caught up on is like people's opinions. You know, we watch all these journalists and we watch all these people give their opinion on politics, and we consider that news. When I think of news, I think like a house caught on fire, 3 people died. That's either right or wrong. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. That's news. Now, Biden policy, that's opinionated.
Well,
So
wait a minute. The actual policy itself is news, but whether
right, how you feel about it.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
Right, good point. Good point. And we tend to always fall out on the wrong side of the fence. Why do you stay on the wrong side of the fence? so I know you don't like labels and stuff like that. So would you consider yourself like a conservative? Would you consider where in the political space? Like me, I consider myself like a libertarian when it comes to like individual issues, and socialist when it comes to the people. You know, and people are like, that's conflicted. I'm like, no, like I think the government should take care of the people as a whole, but leave the individuals alone. That's to me that doesn't contradict itself. It's like and a perfect example is like the war on drugs. Like if you want to go do drugs individually, the government should care less. Now, what the government should do is provide centers if people want to get off drugs. That's how I look at it. Like the government take care of the people, leave the person alone. So how do you view yourself when it comes to social, political?
Sure, I'm kind of like you. I have perspectives and beliefs on both sides of the aisle. I'm more fiscally conservative, but on some social issues, I'm more liberal. For example, I mean, I'm pro-abortion, I'm pro-drug legalization, I'm anti-war, I'm pro-environment. None of those positions are embraced by
conservative at all.
Right, they're not. So, like I said, so I'm not on one side of the fence, but in terms of when it comes to immigration and fiscal issues, yeah, I lean a bit more conservative on that side. Absolutely.
So do you think like a lot of the people that you debate with will be surprised that you are so interested in like say helping black businesses because of your political views?
Oh yeah, I get that a lot. I get that a lot. As a matter of fact, I've had to be careful since I started doing this show about what I say, especially on public pages. Because I had an incident last summer where I was going, me, going at it hard, on a public, I guess, an Axios post or something. And this woman went to my page, saw that I did stuff at ASBN, sent an email to the studio saying, "Are these the type of hosts that you have on your program?" I get a call from the owner, man, of the studio, talking about, "Mark, what are you doing, man?" So I really had to kind of tone down my interactions on public posts.
No, I can see that. And it's, me, luckily living in Madison, everybody's here pretty much progressive. So I could be as progressive and outlandish liberal as I want. But so you went to the South, right? And you kind of, and in the South, and people would be surprised that even though a lot of black men, may vote Democrat but they think conservative. I mean, literally, a lot of and not just black men, Latin men, it's a conservative way of thinking, but you just don't vote conservative. And that's what people like. So you went to the South and you picked up conservative habits coming from Chicago, conservative thought processes. I went to Madison, a college town, super progressive, and picked up progressive thinking habits. How does your environment shape or at least early on, leave a kid leaving Chicago, how did going to a different environment shape how you think today?
Yeah, I mean, it was an evolution. I mean, I grew up on the south side of Chicago as a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat, man. As everybody in Chicago grew up as a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. I mean, I was down with the cause, man. 8th Ward, Democrat, everything. But as you start to evolve, man, I think, and you start to just look at different viewpoints, different perspectives, you begin to formulate your own set of core values. And my core values maybe shifted a little bit, not based on geographically where I was, but the things that I started to study and look at. I just started to look at politics differently. And the bottom line, man, I think a lot of people agree with this. whether it's the right wing or the left wing, they're both part of the same bird, man. I mean, it's basically the political class aligned with the one percenters and the corporate interests against the rest of us, man. That's essentially what it boils down.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And we was just we spoke of this earlier, but classism is so important, and that's why I like Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders will go in front of a room full of white people and be like, "Hey, y'all screwing up. Y'all screwing over people of color. Y'all screwing over poor people." And you just don't have too many politicians that will speak that truth, even if they agree with it, because it's like a lot of conservatives, they like you said, like they actually, like, I have a lot of friends that's conservatives, and on a poor level of being conservative, and the things they talk about that they want is all liberal ideas. Like, man, we don't get health care, and I'm like, but you voted for Trump. Like, we don't get, paid leave, and we don't get this. And I'm just like, I just can't understand, like, the disconnect. And, like, perfect example is West Virginia. Now, West Virginia needs Build Back Better more than any state in our union. I mean, they are like 45th through 50th in every statistical category. Right. And yet, they overwhelmingly vote Republicans.
They do.
And I think Republicans are so much better with, like, messaging. They're so much better at picking the core issues that people like, and just running with those issues. What have you seen, like Biden? What are some of his downfalls? It's like, because when he came on board, he had a high popularity, and now it's tanking. What do you think his missteps have been?
Ooh, man.
I know you can write a book on that.
It's tough because, I mean, inflation is it's about to rear its ugly head in a very bad way. And you I think you're a little younger than me, man, but we haven't had bad inflation since the 70s. I was a young teenager then, but I kind of remember some of the hardships that my mom faced with that runaway inflation when Carter was in office. But I mean, Biden, he's gonna have a tough go next year at the midterms. So I'm hopeful whatever legislation he wants to pass, that he can push it and pass it. But there's going to be opposition, man, and they're talking about changing the filibuster laws so he can get more of his agenda passed. But that may be a slippery slope, because once they change those filibuster laws, if the GOP gets back in power, then they're going to be using those same things against them. It's difficult. It's going to be a difficult 2022, I think, in a lot of respects.
And to be fair, right, like, no matter who became president, midway through, the people were going to be tired of him, one side or the other, depending on which side, because we live in such a polarizing age, and so many people get their news from social media. They don't even know, like, people don't know what's in a Build Back Better. The Democrats can say Build Back Better until they turn blue. If people listen to red news, then they're going to believe it's bad, no matter what's in it, even if they need it. And the same thing with the blue side is, like, it doesn't matter whether Trump did this or did that. He's going to be bad. And whether Trump won again and people was pissed off at him midway through, or Biden won, President Biden, it is like, we're so polarizing that it's either one side or the other. And I always wonder, like, is it possible that we can have another civil war? Because it is. I mean, we as a country don't like each other. We don't love each other. Like, we can try to pretend that we're united, but we are as divided as any country in this world, except we kind of follow our laws to an extent because we had January 6th. So do you think January 6th was like a picnic, or do you think it was really something more serious and may cause problems in the future?
Okay. Before I answer that, I'd just like to go back to the point you made about the polarization. I agree with you. I think we are severely polarized in this country, and I think it's going to hurt us if we don't figure out a way to fix it. In many respects, that's on Trump. Trump did a lot of stuff that divided a lot of people in this country.
He was really good at it.
And yeah, and I think we're still experiencing some of the legacy of that. But I'm hopeful that we will start. I don't know what event it's going to take. I hope it doesn't take another 9/11 to bring us together. I hope that we can start to come together without a tragedy like that. But to answer your question about January 6th, what I saw January 6th, I know a lot of people saw a lot of different things. I saw some folks breach the Capitol, march around, taking selfies and breaking into offices for a few hours and then leaving. I didn't left.
For a few hours?
Building. It was hours. So
I thought you was on my side. I could see, like, I was like, man, he's gonna go there. He's gonna there, like, they're leaving.
They did. That's exactly what happened, man. So
do you think people just got caught up in a moment?
Look, it was stupid. It was beyond stupid what they did. It was beyond stupid. Was Trump a driver? Was he the catalyst behind it? I don't know. There's evidence on both sides of the fence there. But what I do know is anyone who breached that Capitol that day is a criminal. Period. You do something that's not the way things are done from my perspective. But I don't think it rises to the level of insurrection or them trying to overthrow the government. I didn't see any of that. I mean, they didn't come with a bunch of armament, a bunch of weaponry. That's typically what it takes to overthrow a government. You need to have some heavy firepower, man.
So, question: I don't know if you're familiar with Michigan governor. The fact that they were going to kidnap her would that have been an overthrow of the government?
That would have been a lot more serious than January 6th.
I mean, they was blowing up make-believe bridges like that was like replicas of a house.
That would have been a lot more serious than January 6th. And I don't know what happened to that. Did they ever prosecute those?
Yeah, they got prosecuted. And even they was practicing in Wisconsin. And the city they was practicing in, funny, is like right next to Madison. And they were like, oh, they arrested some people in Cambridge, and they like put Cambridge, Wisconsin. I'm like, they must be talking about Cambridge, Michigan. Like, they're not practicing it. Couldn't find out they're practicing in my backyard.
Wow. That's
so do you think people just got overzealous? Like, you know how you like in a crowd and then one person do something and then do you think anything bad would happen if they'd actually caught
gotten a hold of Pelosi or somebody like that?
Yeah.
Ooh, gosh. I would hope not. But you never know, man. People do crazy things, man. People do crazy things. And I'll be very clear. Anyone who was at that Capitol protest was an idiot. To breach that Capitol building, they were complete idiots. I'm not going to make any excuses for that.
First time it been breached, right?
To my knowledge.
We have a call in. It look like Cash again. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Jesse.
Yes.
This I want to ask Mark. Hey, Mark, what's going on with the Voting Rights Act in Georgia?
The Voting Rights Act. Well, as you well know, Cash, the GOP's in firm control here, and they've passed some new, what they call election security measures here in Georgia. Don't know what that's gonna look like, or how that's gonna shape the 2022 races. I'm gonna go on record saying that I think Black people are a lot more resilient than folks give us credit for. They're not going to allow a few extra hurdles to prevent them from voting. So I think there's going to be a big turnout of folks. And Cash, to your point, there are arguments on both sides of the fence. Some people feel that the new Georgia election laws passed here and in other states are racist. Some people don't believe that. So there are arguments on both sides of the fence. I don't think it's going to have a material effect on voter turnout in minority communities. That's just my take.
Well, some of the lines in Georgia was like 9 hours long. I mean, people were waiting like 6 to 9 hours to vote, and that didn't stop them. So hope I do think it'll make it tougher for people to vote, but I think if people want to vote, they're gonna vote. And I think because what's your I can't think of her name, the lady that's running for governor again,
Stacey Abrams.
And I think the fact that she is so in tune with getting people to vote, then I think the people in Georgia is going to be okay. I think she has really turned out a lot of voters. She has turned a lot of people who never thought about voting into voters. And I think that's why you guys had a transformation in the Senate. And let's be real. Georgia is one of those places like Florida, like Texas, where diversity is changing the landscape. I mean, she only lost governorship by like 30,000 votes, right, in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, that was something. Look, I give Stacey Abrams credit. She is a master strategist when it comes to getting out the vote. She's good, man.
She was amazing.
She's very good. I will give credit where credit's due. It's going to be a dogfight here next year, man, both on the governor's side and also Warnock. He's up for because he was only elected to a special seat
for 2 years.
So he's got to run again next November too.
Do you like Warnock?
Don't know much about him. Don't know a whole lot about him. I know he's spending a good deal of his time right now just raising money because he knows he's got to fight next year. So I don't know how much he's actually gotten done.
So here's somebody comment. I don't know if you can see the comments. Asking a black person to present an ID to vote is racist. The laws of Georgia also requires that polls that had a long waiting time and add more machines and employees. So I don't know. It sounds like they're being sarcastic when they say it's racist. But I can't really tell because they said it also requires that polls that had a long waiting time add more machines and employees. But the problem is, how do you force polling places to have more machines? We know they were supposed to have more machines already, wasn't it? They wasn't supposed to have 9-hour waiting periods. The voter ID wasn't really, I don't think that was the worst part of the bill. What scared me is that the state could take over local elections. That was more concerned if they felt the elections had problems. I think that was the concerning part, is that having the state be able to take over county, because especially when it comes to conservatives, they want everything locally. Yeah. Now all of a sudden you want the state to be able to trump local elections. If they feel it's a problem, how do you define problem? And I think that's what was scaring people.
Yeah, I would agree that is not right to have some governing I don't know what they're going to be call themselves
committee.
Can overturn elections. That's not good. To the Facebook,
people who support it, and people who support it would say they're not going to do that. But the problem is to put that on the law that you can do it is bad.
I'll go on record saying it is a problem.
And it's scary.
I don't know what the particulars or details are as to the extent of that power, but I'm sure it will be. They'll start peeling back the layers on that as we get closer to election time next year. But
they also did.
No, on the ID part, I agree with you. I don't think voter ID is inherently racist.
No, but it does impact more black and brown communities. But it's not inherently racist, as you said. But it does. But it also will impact more elderly people. So some things that's not designed to be racist, but it may sound like it's common sense, inherently impacts certain communities more than others. And that's what a lot of people have a problem with, is that poor communities are just going to have a harder time. It's like shortening the time to vote is not inherently racist, but the people who have service jobs may not be able to get off. And that's it impacts people who have service jobs more, and who has more service jobs. Things like that. So yeah, I would agree with you that I think it'll hold up in the Supreme Court that is not racist. But there was a reason why the Supreme Court, before changing, every state or certain states had to run a new voting laws by the Supreme Court. You know,
but the 10th Amendment. I'm not a constitutional expert, but from what I heard, the 10th Amendment guarantees that states are going to govern their elections. And but
remember, because the Justice Department sued a lot of the southern states, the Congress passed a law that certain states that had obvious racist voting laws had to get it. Any voting laws that was changed had to get it approved by the Supreme Court, but that was changed by the Chief Justice. But again, like you said, it's not inherently racist. And hopefully, while the Democrats are talking about the voting laws and how much they hate the changes, that they're helping people get IDs so they can vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sure. If people can afford an ID, give them one free. But on the other side of the spectrum, though, you've got people who believe that anything less than the government showing up at your front door with a newly minted ID and handing it to you, anything less than that is racist. I'm not buying that one, man.
No, I don't think it's racist. I just think it might impact certain communities more than others. Okay. So that's how I look at it. So you're not really, and I had this conversation before because they think like all black people are worried about voting laws. You're not worried about voting laws. I mean, how do you think the voting laws will impact you?
I've lived in the South now for 26 years, man. 20 years in Atlanta and 6 years in New Orleans. Have never had a problem voting, man. I mean, it's the same process every time. You walk up, you present your ID, and you vote. I don't really. I can't see why people are making it more complicated than that.
And again, I agree with like it should be easy to vote, and like I say, I know it impacts certain communities more than others, but this is a good thing for Democrats. I mean, Democrats could pass a bill, just get everybody an ID, like in 10 months it's going to be time to vote. This is a good time to start reaching out to those communities, but also seeing what they need to help them be able to vote. If you want to poll, like in Wisconsin, I mean, we had like ballot, like where you could go centralize the voting and stuff like that. I don't know if we'll have that this year, but we have voting drives. Uber, Lyft, they was giving people free rides. We had people that was driving people around, especially elderly people. Like, if you want people to be able to vote, now is the time, especially a lot of these nonprofit organizations, if they need something to do with their time during the voting season.
Yep.
Perfect.
I agree with you. I have no problem with everyone participating in the voting process, man. They should. It's one of the great things about this country is the ability to be represented, man. And people need to show up and they need to vote. I mean,
and the flip side to that, I am tired of people pretending like we have problems with our voting system as Americans to vote. You think you're going to get people who don't live here to care about voting? Most people, I mean, we have one of the lowest voter turnouts in the Western world. People don't like to vote. So you think somebody else is going to wait in line that don't have, it just baffles me that people are so afraid. Like, oh my God, I mean, we can never prove that any massive voter fraud took place, but it's always a conversation.
Sure. I mean, we're not only fighting that fear, Jesse, but we're also fighting that voter apathy. As you said, man, we have low voter turnout, man. Why? I mean, I had one election, my son came to me and said, I don't feel like going to vote. And we had a long talk. I showed him pictures of our ancestors being hosed down, man, with water hoses and dogs sicked on them, man, because they wanted to vote. And I told my son, I said, you're going to vote each and every election to honor these people here in these pictures who died, suffered for your right to vote.
Right. And people don't understand like the meaning behind the symbolism and stuff like that, because it's important. Even when I didn't want to vote for a candidate, I write my own name, man, because the act of voting was more important than who I supported. And, it's symbolic, but it's important. And do I think my vote makes a difference? No, because people, I mean, if that person lose my state by 1 million votes, my one vote, it didn't make a difference. But you need to vote. I mean, you have to express yourself, and there's no better way to express yourself, than to vote in this country. I don't think, but in mass, communities can make a difference. People make a difference, but it's very few elections that's lost by 1 or 2 votes.
Yeah, that's true.
And if we just being honest, but also I'm like you, my rule is like if you live in my house, you got to vote if you're old enough to vote.
Yeah, man.
It's just the way it is. I had like if one of my cousins lived with me, I'm like, dude, I know you don't vote, but you living with me this year, you got to vote. You just got to vote. I don't care who you vote for, but you got to go at least to the polling station to attend to fill out something. But I don't like. So you said you believe in abortion. Do you think the Texas abortion law is going to have an overall impact? I mean, we got the Mississippi abortion law coming up too. How do you think the right to abortion? How do you think the Supreme Court should protect or not protect? Like, should it be a state? Should it be a state issue, or should it be on a federal level?
My position on abortion is that I'm hopeful the Supreme Court is going to leave Roe v. Wade in place. I mean, I take a kind of a practical view on that, Jesse. Outlawing abortions is not going to make them go away. Texas,
it's the dumbest thing ever, actually.
Yeah, it's not going to make them go away. And Texas having that restrictive law, all that did is increase the business in those surrounding states. New Mexico, right. Or any state that's bordering Texas, they got an offshoot. And nowadays, man, even if Roe v. Wade went away, you think abortion is going to go away? No, we're in the age of technology. There will be find an abortion doctor apps that will be that will be out, man. I mean, to me, it's madness, man. All you're going to do is force a lot of those abortions back to the back alleys. We're going to put these women's.
We've seen it with a prohibition of alcohol.
Yeah, it's crazy to me, man. It's crazy.
Because the prohibition of drugs is working so great. Yeah, people just stop doing drugs.
Yeah, we're on a roll since Nixon started war on drugs, man. We have very few people doing drugs nowadays.
And what's funny about it is that it's one thing if Roe v. Wade was never in place. Right. Like, we're like the only country that's trying to go backwards. Like, this problem has already been solved 50 years ago. Why are we revisiting this every few years? Like, you cannot put the genie back in a bottle, like you said. There's no way to get this genie back in a bottle.
Yeah, there's no way, and it's frustrating when I hear a lot of my conservative friends, beat this abortion drum, man. I'm like,
and let's be fair, it's really not about how you feel about abortion. It's more about a woman's right to choose what she want to do with her body. You can be against abortion, like Biden. Biden is against abortion, but he believes in a woman's right to choose. He's Catholic. But he believes a woman should be able to choose with her doctor. It amazes me, like, how so many people talk about, like, wanting to control their body, but they're the same people who are against abortion, which is amazing. So, being in Atlanta, you're right next to the CDC. Are more people down there more logical when it comes to, like, the disease control people helping them, or do you still have as many skeptics? How close are you to the CDC?
All right. I'm fairly close to the CDC as my wife is a public health scientist at the CDC. So
you had to get vaccinated, right?
Yeah. Although I'm not a public health scientist, I did sleep with one last night, so I know a little bit. Right? But at any rate, look, man, the CDC is doing the best they can, man. And I'll tell you one thing. With the CDC, there's primarily two functions. They're the professional career employees like my wife and many other dedicated professionals over there. And then you've got your political folks over at the CDC too. So there's kind of two different camps over there, man. They're doing the best they can, man. But this pandemic, I believe, is something we're going to have to live with long term.
So my question, like, people talk about the obligation to, like, themselves and, like, I have a right. Like, do you think people should have an obligation to the actual doctors and nurses that is way overworked and drained and thinking about, I mean, I read like 60% of doctors and nurses is thinking about finding a new profession. I mean, this I can't imagine what they are like. People are so selfish that they're not actually thinking about the people that have to take care of people that's choosing to not be vaccinated. And yes, we know there's a few breakthrough cases, but 95% of people are unvaccinated.
Yeah. No, you're right. First of all, I'd just like to say I believe in vaccination. I'm vaccinated. I also believe that vaccinations are an individual choice. I don't think there should be any mandates on vaccines. Now, I know there are arguments on both sides of the fence in that regard as well. But that's a slippery slope, man. When you start mandating those types of things, what could that lead to? And I think that's what's got a lot of people spooked.
But we already have vaccine mandates, right?
For kids in school, I believe. I don't think there's any adult mandates, are there? You tell me.
No, there's not any adult mandates. But when your baby's born, there's a certain set of vaccines they have to take.
Yep. Correct.
So people are forced to do vaccines when they don't want to do vaccines. So this is nothing new, And I take the opposite approach. I think the messaging on this has been screwed up. I think this is building like an unnecessary hole for the Democrats. Even though overwhelmingly people are vaccinated, I won't say overwhelming, but it's like 60 to 70% or something. But it's like believing vaccines, obviously, or the mandates force them to. But the thing is we letting the 30% drive the bus. It's like, dude, if they don't want to get vaccinated, don't let them get vaccinated. We know this is a virus of the unvaccinated. If they should, at this point, we've been doing this for 2 years.
Yeah, we have.
It's time to take the kid gloves off. You don't want to be vaccinated? Don't get vaccinated. The rest of the country is moving on. And it's like the government get into this protect people against themselves type mentality, and it just never works.
Let me ask you a question, Jesse. Then, if you were to make a case for a vaccine mandate, how would you message it?
I would just say this. I would say we have been dealing with this for 2 years. We have tried to be passive, and this is our 5th spike in 2 years. People are tired, and we're ready to move on. We have 30% of the people that do not want to be vaccinated. So you have 2 choices. We can't force you to get a vaccination, but you also can't come outside. You can't go grocery shopping. You can't go, you just can't be part of society if you choose to be outside of society. If you're not going to do your global responsibility, then we have to move on without you. We've been dealing with this for 2 years. And if you'd have been vaccinated last year, we wouldn't be dealing with massive hospitals filling up because you don't only impact you. When you go to the hospital, you take it. We'll have to take that call in a minute. When you go to hospitals, you're taking up bed from cancer patients. You're taking up bed from people who get emergencies. People are being sent to other hospitals because the beds are filled with COVID patients. At some point, we have to get out of this. And I see America has let so many people drive the boat because we like for example, Israel. They're already on a 4th mandate. They already moving. And Biden dropped the ball on this Omicron because he's like, we couldn't have seen this. I seen it when England started preparing for it. I'm like, you can't prepare for it. Europe is shutting down. And we're like, well, we just don't know what we hear. When it comes to COVID, I mostly follow other countries and how they reacted to COVID because we're so tiptoeing around people feelings here. We knew Omicron was going to be, how can you not know? England, it just blasted England. I'm looking at them and I'm like, dude, it's already here. And Madison just put out a paper we're filled up. So when we found out it was 1 case, we probably had hundreds of cases. When we found out today, we said it was 150. It's probably 1,500. Who knows? But it's at what point is we going to say enough is enough? It's almost 2 years. And we still got to wear a mask in Walmart. Eventually you have to take the kid gloves off and be an adult. And we don't have those adults because people are scared of the loud minority. 70% of people are vaccinated. Let's pull the Band-Aid off and keep it moving. But we also had a course that's blocked by mandates. But it's time. it's time. But as long as the country is divided, we have politicians like your Georgia politician, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's comparing mandates to the Holocaust.
She doesn't represent my district. I'll just say that. Okay?
So again, it's time. Like, we've been dealing with this 2 years. They told us to get vaccinated. I got vaccinated in February. I got the booster about a month ago. As soon as I was able to get it, why? Like, because we have certain amount of people that refuse to get vaccinated. Why are we still playing around? Eventually, if there was this many people walking around with measles, you would start forcing vaccinations.
Yeah.
But
well, so some additional measures are starting. You probably saw the news today. I think Chicago, Boston, New York are starting to require, I guess, proof of vaccination for certain indoor public venues. So if that's the beginning of starting, as you say, pulling the Band-Aid off, turning up the heat on the stove, we'll see what happens, where that takes us next year.
And you know what's funny? And what's funny is that, people, like, so we hear politicians talk, right? Yep. And they're like, well, Omicron, we don't know if it's going to be as bad as Delta. We don't know how bad it's going to be. We don't know this. We don't know that. And it's like, but you look at their measures and you like, for one, public health officials know a lot more than we know. Yeah. And they're only telling us what they want us to know. These measures, y'all not, like, if Omicron is not as deadly as Delta, why are y'all all of a sudden now be like, hey, we're going to start requiring this. We're going to start requiring this. Like, again, look at the rest of the world and how they're preparing for Omicron. And America is like, because we don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm like, dude, all I know is the rest of the world seems to be very serious about Omicron. And we're like, well, maybe we'll get some home tests.
Justin, you made a good point. And I wonder, you mentioned the vaccination rates around the world. I wonder what they are with leading countries. And I know some of the developing countries can't get the vaccine, but I wonder what the vaccination rates are for other first world countries compared to us.
I can check out actually vaccination rates by country, which is interesting. We do know that they have a few people that also don't want to be vaccinated.
Yeah, true.
But
and some
it does seem like
reasons. So some can't for medical reasons, for whatever. So.
But it does seem like their governments are much more forceful than ours.
Some are.
Like, they're not playing around with like they would just lock you in a house. Like I say, like Israel is locking out everybody.
Yeah, well, but that can have mixed results. You see what's happening in Australia. Man, they're pushing back, man. They're pushing back.
But yeah, they are. And I'm starting to see this in some countries. But I'm also thinking that most countries, like Americans, we have like this way of like, everybody should be hurt. Everybody like, it's your right not to do this or your right not to do that. And I just don't think like if it gets serious enough, other countries will hesitate to force mandates versus. We have courts that are blocking it. We have this, like I see in some states that's like, I forgot, it was like Sweden. It was one of the Danish, it was like Norway or Sweden. Like they had like in one city, like 2 infections and locked down the whole city. Like it was crazy. Like how some of the other countries are not like China was like, and you better not come out or you're going to jail. Like, I think those countries, not saying that we should live in those type of countries, but they have a better chance at managing outbreaks than we do because we actually literally have governors fighting against people getting vaccinated. They'll come on and be like, I know vaccinations is the right way to go, but you should choose whether to get, like, dude, we don't need to hear that. We need, and this, when you mentioned 9/11, right? When 9/11 happened, all our leaders spoke with one voice. Whether right or wrong, the initial plan, everybody was on the same page. And COVID, if our leaders could get on the same, like, the fact that they're not even close on the same page is just amazing. It's simply amazing. Like, y'all can't even agree whether people should get vaccinated or not. Like,
yeah, I'm just hopeful, as I said earlier, it doesn't take another 9/11 type of event to finally, get rid of this extreme partisanship, man.
and to be fair, at this point, we're so past partisanship. We're at extreme hatred. I mean, literally, you cannot put 10 red and blue people in the same room and not. I mean, if they're in a room for 12 hours, it's going to be a fight. Literally, if you told them to talk politics, I mean, we see like people are like chasing kids to school because of kids wearing masks. I mean, literally, it in some places is literally dangerous. Red versus blue. School boards are talking about what they should do, and we have people threatening school boards.
Yeah,
Like,
that's why I'm saying 2022. I'm hopeful it's not going to be a difficult year, man. A very difficult year. In that regard.
So to put you on the spot, right? If we did have a red and blue civil war, are you living in a red state or a blue state?
Well, look, after last November's results, I'm in a blue state now, right?
So do you think Georgia would turn blue?
It has turned blue as of last.
It has turned blue, but it took a special election. Oh, actually, the president did. It's at least purple now. So, do you think it would be official? Would you think it would stay blue? 2024.
2020. Well, 2022 is going to be the first litmus test because you've got Warnock up. The governor's race is next year as well. So
right.
It's going to be some fireworks here in Georgia next year.
That's going to be probably the most watched state in the midterms.
Oh yeah. Because if Abrams and Warnock both win, it's a wrap, man. Georgia's blue state, man. Period. I mean, it's a wrap.
So how do you think? Okay, so when it comes to like gerrymandering and setting up districts, is there any way around that? As long as because most states are controlled by Republicans.
Well, yeah, that's because elections are local, and that's another thing with the Democrats and black people have to figure that out, man. Elections are local. Stop worrying about Biden. Stop worrying about your national senator. Start worrying about your local elections because that's what's going to drive your state.
Like Georgia did. Like Georgia's doing. Yeah. To give credit to Georgia, like they showed up and showed out. I mean, they sent the black and the Jewish person to the Senate, and they beat like some household names like Purdue.
Yeah. Yes, they did.
Not that I pay attention to Georgia politics, but but they showed up and showed out. And if Warnock win again, wow.
If Warnock and Abrams both win next year, like I said, it's a wrap. Georgia's blue. Period.
So speaking of, so you guys just went through a major case with the Aubrey case, and I'm assuming I don't want to assume, but do you think the results were right?
I was very happy to see those 3 folks convicted, and I'll use folks as a gentler adjective.
Right, and it was very interesting because it kind of put on display the privilege that they felt they had. Because like I said, when you talk about citizens arrest, you never hear black people talking about citizens arrest. You never hear. I've never heard it. But we all like white men in America have this entitlement to feel that, they must. I mean, like literally, the guy is jogging, and
crazy.
You shoot him and gun him down.
Leave him alone. What are you pursuing him for? He's jogging.
They chasing him on a truck.
Yeah, he's jogging through a neighborhood. Why are you going to grab your 2 other rednecks and get a shotgun and go after a guy who's jogging through the neighborhood? I never understood that, man.
And the fact that they all going to do life is awesome. And I thought it was funny that Brian, like last day before deliberation, he's like, after the one guy testified, he's like, I want to make a deal. And they're like, nah, it's too late, buddy. He heard the one dude testify. He was like, oh shit. We're in trouble.
I hope that case sent a message to all these little rednecks out here who think they can get away with that kind of foolishness, man. I hope that sent a message.
But you do agree with the Rittenhouse verdict also, right?
Absolutely, I do.
But you don't consider him a hero, right? You don't consider him a hero, right?
Do I for what's that? I didn't hear you.
I say, but you don't consider him a hero, right?
No, I don't consider him a hero.
That's a shot at Brandon. Brandon.
No, I do not.
So I didn't have a problem with that. Are you familiar with the Kim Potter case?
Yeah, vaguely.
She shot him when he was Dante Wright when he was trying to ride off.
Oh yeah. Oh man, yeah, that one. Yeah. The woman who mistaked her taser for a service.
Yes. So what do you think about that case?
She did the crime. She needs to do the time.
Okay, so playing devil's advocate one time, right? I was thinking about it. So she's a police officer, and she made a mistake. Everybody agreed that she made a mistake, right? Nobody. I have never heard anybody say that they didn't think it was an accident.
Yep.
Now, me personally, I think she should be convicted. But I was also thinking the other day, because I tend to do that sometimes. So I was thinking the other day, for a person to make a mistake on a job, we don't treat, like, if a doctor was to make a mistake operating on somebody and they died, we wouldn't be holding that person up for murder.
Yeah, that's true. They'd be sued. You're right, but they wouldn't.
But they wouldn't be. They would not be looking at murder charges because we would just consider it an accident. Right. Not saying that she shouldn't be considered, but I was thinking about that the other day. Nobody would even think the doctor should be on trial. It would never come up that the doctor should be on trial, but a police officer who clearly made a mistake is on trial. Again, before anybody get all twisted, I believe she's guilty and should go to jail for second-degree murder. You know, but I was also thinking on the flip side to that, if anybody else make a mistake on a job, they would not be facing charges. I don't know any other job that would be facing charges and be like, it was an accident.
That's
you know.
Good point, Jesse.
So I was just thinking that because the police, like I said, if I'm a doctor and I'm like, you tell me like I need to have a heart transplant and I accidentally take out a kidney and you die, you're not gonna send me to jail. All right, we'll let Candace back in. Jesse and Mark.
Hey, Jesse and Mark. Just to piggyback on what you guys are saying, you take the case of Potter, the police lady, 26 years of seniority, then you flip that over and you talk about Alec Baldwin. You see how they say it was an accident? He's not on trial for anything.
That's a good point.
But not yet, because they just subpoenaed a cell phone.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
He won't release it. But Mark, this is for you, Mark. Okay. If you read a book called Turning Point by Jimmy Carter.
No, I did not.
All the discrepancies in the Voting Act, and Jimmy Carter stood strong. Him and his wife, Rosalynn, stood strong about the discrepancy, how they were spilling votes.
Okay. I will have to look at that. I appreciate the recommendation. Turning Point, huh?
So I know. I kept you past your your hour, but it's always good. It's always easy when it's easy to have a conversation with somebody, you know, because there's so many things to talk about. But they give you a reason to come back on. But so we was so I was just thinking about that. Like, there's no other, and like Karen said, but again. Baldwin case is still, because they just subpoenaed his phone records, which surprised me. So they're looking at criminal charges to somebody.
Yep.
But like again, doctors, paramedics, people die. Like a construction site. If you drop something on somebody's head, you know, you're not going to be charged. It'll just be ruled an accident, a work accident. And I was just thinking about that on the opposite side of the fence. But it could be the climate too with the cops.
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a great point, though, Jesse. I mean, it is as you prefaced it being a devil's advocate point, but it's a point that people should think about. You're right.
So, but man, anything? Hey, I'm gonna give you the last word on our conversation. Hey, so. Are you surprised that we was able to go wire to wire? We always battle on Facebook, and I know you're gonna come up with some. Hey, where do you get your memes from, man? Because you're like Johnny on the spot with the memes. Do you like keep a folder? Like you're just like, I know somebody's gonna come up with that one. Boom! Because I know you're not instantly getting them. You already got them lined up.
I have a meme system. They're divided by category and subject matter in my phone for instant access and
Can you do
deployment.
it from your phone?
Instant access and deployment.
Because you'll be like right ready. And you do have some of the best memes. Even I have to laugh. Even though subject matters that's not funny, I'm like, I can't help but to laugh. And it's funny, like, I think that like people hear us have a conversation and hear a lot of the stuff, it probably does clear up a lot of misconceptions, because I'm sure people be like, soon as you comment, they're like, oh my God, he hates black people.
Oh man, I get that so much. You hate black people. You hate. Yeah, I hate myself. I mean, come on.
And I just think people fail to realize that black people are just not monolithic, even though we want to believe it. And that's probably, what, I think that's one of the reasons why it's so hard for us to grow as a group, is because we think everybody, like, if you don't think like we think, then you're not part of the group. And I think that's, like, people have that mentality based on community, so it's like you lose half your community because they don't agree with what you're saying. Like you're a black guy, you clearly believe Cal Rittenhouse shouldn't be in jail, and but also you have a positive impact on helping black people get businesses. Like people like have different, because I'm a progressive and I'm like, President Obama not progressive enough, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, you hate Obama!" I'm like, he's just not Bernie Sanders. Like, dude, look, like literally, and people are like, "No, like you just don't like agree with." I'm like, dude, I am more Green Party and Libertarian than I am Democrat, and people are like, you have to be Democrat, and it's like, I'm not really like. There's a lot of things that Democrats do that I'm like. Now, Biden, admittedly, was the first Democrat president that I voted for, because I went Nader and Jill Stein and Gary Johnson. But the funny thing is, Trump was so bad. Trump was so bad that he forced me to vote Democrat. Like literally.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, man. I mean, they would have. I mean, they didn't care who ran; they just wanted Trump out, man. So. And
Biden, and let's be fair, Biden was not what the people wanted. People wonder why Biden having a hard time. Nobody wanted Biden. If it wasn't for President Obama picking him as vice president, Biden would not be president now, or even thought. He ran twice before. Yeah. Nobody cared. Yeah. President Obama and Donald Trump is what got Biden elected, and now he's learning he's not the deal maker that he thought he was. He's not, and like literally now. To be fair, Biden turned out to be way more progressive than I thought he would be, because he's like the progressive wing has gotten in his ear, and he's trying to push through a lot of progressive bills. But I have, like, even me having to face the fact, and I hate facing this fact, is that America is more moderate than anything. So they're not very far to the right. They're not very far to the left like me. 90% of Americans is right in the middle, regardless. So we can talk about 20% of the people not having health care. Yep. Americans going to look at it like, well, 80% of us do have health care, so why mess with the system? Like that's how we are as a country. Like it was a hard pill to swallow, because I'm like, dude, there's this many people that they're like, that's fine. Like I'm like, most people don't have pensions anymore. They're like, get a different job. And it's like, well, companies don't do pensions anymore. And they're like, get a better job. Like, I got one. So we are so local in our thinking that, progressives, we want the country to think collectively, but that's more Europe. It's more Europe, but I'll take one more call and then.
All right. Good deal.
All right.
Hey, Jeff.
Hey, brother.
Facial expressions. He's ready to go.
I think Mark is fine. I think Mark is fine. We already had a talk before.
Hey, Cash.
I'm about to wrap it up, Cash. I'm about to wrap it up. I was going to give Mark the last word.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Jesse. I got a new perspective on your country, young man. You sold yourself to me with your country wise. Yes. I don't consider you Clarence Thomas.
me either. But I never did. I
knew. You passed this. You know what, Bob? You put me in a view.
All right, brother.
He gonna feel guilty when he trying to rip you on Facebook now.
You put me in the mind of Wayne Giddings. Wayne Giddings don't waver. Wayne stand on, and he's not gonna go back and forth, and he's not gonna waver. He's gonna say, "That's what you feel. That's on you," and he's gonna move on. So I enjoyed you, Mark. Jesse, you had a good show. You did very well. Better than last week. So you stay focused this time. I like that.
All right, thanks. We got one more call.
I won't call you.
All right, let me take this call, Cash. All right, we taking one more call. Who are we talking to? Oops. Hey, we did have another caller, but they can call back in. But hey, I was gonna wrap it up and let you go. But that's why I wanted to do it early, so we don't push too much against you. I'm gonna give you the last thought. So anything you want to mention? But man, it was a pleasure. It was great. We definitely gonna have to do this again. I'm sure as topics come up, I'll be like, Mark, let's go. let's have a conversation. But hey, it was a pleasure, man. And I'll leave you the last word.
No, pleasure was all mine, Jesse. This format, I've watched a couple of shows now. I'm going to actually start to call in. I didn't know it could be as good as Cash did, but I appreciate the opportunity to come on your show, man. Love what you're doing. It kind of brings to life some of your Facebook page. I mean, you've got a very great Facebook page with a lot of engagement. And for you to bring it to this live format, I think it's a good next step, man. So I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, and I appreciate you coming on. And you're welcome to come on anytime. If I'm going on, you'll be like, dude, I'm going on with you. It's always an open door because it's always fun to do it with somebody and talk and just have a conversation, man. It's not about like changing people's mind. It's just about let's just have a conversation and have fun. And
let me ask you a quick question. You went to Dunbar. Did you know Ariel Lovelace, assistant principal there? Lovelace?
Yes.
Yeah, that's my wife's uncle, man.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You went to
Dr. Lovelace? Was it Dr. Lovelace? Yeah. That's funny. Small world, man.
Yeah, he passed away, man, about 5 years ago.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, that's bad. But yeah, man, it's a small world. Yeah. You know, we all connected in some way, huh?
Absolutely, brother. Well, enjoy your evening, my friend.
You too, man. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, man. I can't wait to have you back on.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, everybody else, peace.
All right.